All right, we're live for the first Friday secret live stream in history on this channel specifically. I think anyway. I haven't looked back through the records. I may have already done it, but this is the first one in my memory, and that's all that matters. I've just realised my glasses are a little fogged up. That's probably because I don't know why. Oh, look, my hair looks a little shaggy. Is that the word? Because I haven't had a haircut since last year. That's really true. That is actually true. But since October or something like that, so I'm starting to look like a dog, which is appropriate because today's live stream is about dogs. Sorry, I went high pitched there so that dogs could hear me. You know, it's at their frequency. I love dogs. You know, you might be thinking, "Oh, what's this got to do with Britain versus America?" But for those of you who are new to our live streams or haven't popped in a while, you know, I put out a topic each week now, and it doesn't have to do with Britain versus America. Sometimes it'll often tie in. In fact, today I suspect it will in some capacity. But sometimes it's just good to just talk about anything, isn't it? And this is something that, excuse me, I'm not as likely to do on my channel because you have to kind of keep it niche and focused there. But here it's a good chance to unwind. And what better way to unwind than talking about canines? Probably, I think dogs might be the best thing in the world ever. So that's useful. It's a good start. If you are the best thing, you are off to a good start in life. And dogs are among my favorite things. I mean, as you may know from visiting these live streams, do you visit? You don't, you just attend. Visiting would suggest that you've gone to a place. I suppose you could, never mind, I won't get bogged down in that. But anyway, and those of you who have attended these live streams will know that we've been thinking very hard about getting a pet, a partner for Kafka, partner in crime, that is. And it may well end up being a dog. So it felt right that we have this very important conversation here today. Throughout the week, I did post a comment, not even a comment, I posted a post. Redundant words there, but I posted a post asking for your questions for me about dogs, which was lovely. And I received many, and I've got them all up here, and I'll be answering those questions later on in this live stream. So thank you for those. I just want to see the numbers here look great. We've had anywhere between 15 and 20 people for this Friday live stream. So that's very encouraging. My concern was that, you know, we wouldn't get numbers because people are at work, but I suspected as well that we might have some luck, and that's proving to be the case. So, dogs. What do I know about dogs? Well, you know what? When I first moved to the United States, I lived with my wife's parents, and they're big animal lovers, and they had 3 dogs, I think it was, and you know, it was very good to walk into that environment. I think anyone who's good with dogs or has dogs in their house instantly sort of comforts me or makes me feel welcome. Um, because I don't know what it is. I think, you know, dogs can tell. They can tell, you know, good from bad people. And I'm obviously in their eyes a good person. They love me. Dogs do. They don't leave me alone. I've got one that just licks my face. I don't have it. It's a relative's. It's called Lola. It's this tiny little thing. And sometimes when we, you know, stop off or that they come over to visit and stay over the night, hasn't happened in a while, that dog will just run into the bed and lick my face incessantly. Sometimes it's overwhelming and you desperately need a shower right after, but you know, it's also adorable. It's like animals can get away with the strangest things that if humans tried them, we'd be calling the police, but they're dogs, so you don't do that, and it's just really nice. Okay, so we seem to have some comments that have come in. This is great, and seeing some new names as well, I believe, so that's great. And again, if you're new to these live streams, you know, it's very laid back, just like me, really, as you can tell from the lack of hair care. But yeah, it's very laid back, and I just talk at you. You know, you should be used to that by now if you see my YouTube videos. So who have we got? We've got Many people. And what are the comments that are going around? Elisa says, I'm more of a cat person, admittedly, but I know most dogs are happy to see me. This worried me a bit when I was a mail carrier. I can imagine. In fact, my first dog, when I was a wee little boy, used to tear the newspaper to pieces because it would come, of course, in the UK, it comes through a letterbox on the door. So a lot of dogs in the UK, actually, this is a pretty big difference, I suppose. They wait for the newspaper person to arrive, or the mail deliverer, and they just jump up at the letterbox as it's coming through the door and they eat it. We never had. I don't think we ever had a newspaper that was fully intact by the time we went to read it, and it was usually covered in saliva. And that wasn't just me. That it was partly my dog. So got him to blame for that. First time catching a stream, says Will Blake 72. Welcome, Will Blake 72, and anybody else that's here for the first time. Yeah, I mean it's always like this. Usually, as you've probably seen from the posts, we've been holding these on a Sunday, and that was great. It worked for 2 years, but I needed a weekend, because I was just going a bit insane, and so I thought, best to work these into my work day. And thus finishing the workday on a high, because these live streams are among my favorite part of doing Lost in the Pond, and it just makes sense, I think, to incorporate it in this fashion. Okay, let's see. Kathy says, I had to move up to North Texas for treatment and had to leave my 2 dogs at my sister's. I haven't seen them in over a year. Oh, goodness. And I'll never get to see them again. Oh, I hope you do, Kathy. Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part, isn't it? I mean, just for us, when we simply go away, on a weekend trip, and we leave Kafka here, a cat, self-sufficient cat, you still miss them every single day. I know I do. And it's always good to return home. But yeah, it's definitely like that, isn't it? Yeah. So, and of course, I repeat DJ K's sentiments there. Hello to not just the newcomers, but of course to the Lost in the Pond regulars as well. And thank you for those of you that could make it here today. I know that it was always going to be tough for some people, and I hate that, but it's just how it had to be, unfortunately. Okay, so let's see. Jay Baher, hope I'm saying that right, says, I'm allergic to furry critters, although they do seem to like me. I have a feathered companion. Yeah, I've got a few friends who have, allergies to either cats or dogs or maybe both. And I always feel so sorry for them, because it's, if I couldn't do that, if I couldn't hang out with animals, I don't know how I'd get through life. Don't tell Kafka that. He's supposed to think that I hate him, but I don't. And that's just the way it is. Donna says, I've been looking for a dog. I've discovered puppy scams are everywhere. Oh, goodness. Yeah. You have to be so careful. Shelters haven't had the dog that I'm looking for yet. Yeah, I've not encountered anything in the way of scams or anything like that, but I can imagine that, it's probably, I can see why it would be rife with it, because scams often rely on tugging at the heartstrings, and dogs, of course, are a big, you can weaponize them in that respect, I suppose. Yeah, and we'll be, I mean, I'm seeing, phrases like adopt and go to shelters and things like that. And, I think that that's the way that we would want to do it as well. And Jeff has a point here as well. And this is something we encountered, I think it was last year when we were looking into this, but it's harder to adopt a pet during the pandemic. And that'll be interesting to see. That will be interesting to see. Great. Okay. So Athcat says, get a nice mutt at Anti-Cruelty. They are a great organization. That's good to know. And yeah, I think there are plenty of different places here in Chicago. So I'll be looking into those even more so. Okay. Let me just have a quick glass of water there. Let me go ahead, actually, and pull up the questions that you sent in. We did get plenty of those, like I said. This one comes from Beth, who is the first with the question. What has been your most memorable experience with a dog? And I've had a number of, incredible experiences, and I've had, several sad ones, but I don't want to dwell on those. I think in terms of the happy memories that I've had with dogs, I honestly, the little dog Lola who comes and licks my face all the time, that will always stand out for me. I think one that really stands out though is my in-laws had this Chihuahua that me and Tara found actually, and it. There was one day I was just sitting watching football, and it came up and it sat on my lap, and then turned over, to tell me rub my belly. And as I did so, it had this very discernible grin on its face, on her face. I think it was no, it was a he. I think it was a he. I've forgotten now. And it was just the most unbelievable experience ever, seeing how happy it was. I love that. I just love when animals are happy, and wagging their tails to let me know that. Kathy says that according to the news, more dogs and cats have been adopted during the pandemic because more folks are staying home. So there we go. Yeah, and I suppose that on top of that, and to add to that, people maybe need that companionship as well, just that little bit more. John says, now that I'm retired, I am thinking of getting a cat or a dog, but I worry about the care since I can't seem to keep houseplants alive. And that was my biggest concern, really, being sort of busy with work and things like that. When we got the cats, and this is, 12 years ago now, I was hesitant at first. I really wasn't sure I wanted any pets at all. And it took them arriving here, and being put in front of me, and my whole mindset on it changed in an instant when I just saw them running around my living room and doing things. I still, for the first year thought there's no way these cats are living beyond the age of 2, living with me, because how does that happen? And now Kafka, is about to turn 12. It still surprises me that we got him that far. Especially since he likes to eat plastic and everything else. So that's that. But in the case of cats, they often take care of themselves. They're quite independent creatures. And that's been one of the great things about living with Kafka, I think. Dogs is a different story. I'm very much prepared that they need, exercise and to go out and to do their business, not in the house, but elsewhere and all of that. So it's going to be an interesting change, but I think one that I'm looking forward to, if indeed it is a dog that we pursue. Pursue is the wrong word, but it's just the one that came out. We'll deal with that. All right, so let's have a look at the next question. This is from Just Me, who says, do you greet all the dogs that you meet when you're out for a walk? And that's a great question, because I do go for a lot of walks around where I live, and in the US specifically, particularly, I should say, although very much not uncommon in Britain either, there are people walking their dogs all the time. And I'm not someone who starts up chit chat with strangers on the street or anything like that. But if somebody stops and their dog is nearby, I do tend to, look at them and go, hello, in this silly voice. And the thing is, the dog never says hello back. It's really rude in many ways, but that's just dogs, isn't it? And yeah, I am that sort of person, actually. I'm more likely to gravitate toward the dog than the person walking it, I think. And that maybe it's because I just prefer animals over humans. I don't know. We're all animals, don't get me wrong. But yeah, dogs are just, you can't really beat dogs because they're just unconditionally happy most of the time. And that is amazing. Okay, great. And it looks like we've got one or two questions that have come in here as well. This is from Cold in August, who says, hi, Lawrence, what are the most common breeds of dog in shelters in England? Are there lots of pits and shepherds like here, or are there other common breeds? It's a good question. I seem to remember seeing and encountering more Jack Russells, for example, in the UK. I had one, actually. My first dog was a Jack Russell. And thus, because of that, I think, because of the nostalgia, I'd say Jack Russell is probably my favorite dog, which I think in saying these things, I'm answering some questions that are coming up. But that's the case. And in terms of other breeds, I don't know, because beyond Benji, which was his name, I didn't really live with dogs in the UK once he passed, which was when I was 8 or 9. So it's hard for me to remember really what the most popular dogs and dog breeds are there. I think you've got things like Yorkshire Terriers, Border Collies, and a number of other ones. German Shepherd, I think, is a big one. I think it is here too, isn't it? Yeah. I will say this: occasionally, I see dogs in this country which are way bigger than any dog I've ever seen. Sometimes they're massive. They're as big as a human, but on 4 legs. I can never remember the names of those really super huge dogs, but they are massive. Okay, great. And we're glad you're here too, Linda, who says was able to join and driving home right now. Great. And Elisa says, my parents stopped having dogs after my toddler years, but my grandmother and aunt had dogs when I was older. And, that's something I've enjoyed. I think it's the fact that my in-laws had dogs or have dogs has made it easier for me to become acclimatized with the notion of having a dog myself, because you get all this practice, because we lived with them. Sometimes we would therefore have to look after them and do all of the things that comes with living with a dog, like taking them for a walk and all of that. And it's the best thing ever, isn't it? Okay, so back to the questions that came in this week. This is a great question. This is from William, who asks, "What do you expect in a dog?" And I have low expectations in general, other than for them to be happy. But one expectation is that they keep jumping on me even after their owner says, "Stop that, Rex." Because I don't know. I don't. When an owner says that, I'm like, no, 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 let him jump up me. I love this. It's amazing. And then he jump and we cuddle, and I sometimes owners can get a bit fussy, can't they? Oh, don't get hairs all over that human, even if he wants it. I'll put up with the saliva for a little bit, so long as your dog is cute. And most of the time, that's the case because they're dogs. Kevin asks, have you had a bad experience with any dog that you met while walking? I have once. And it was largely not to do with me. It was actually a friend that I was hanging out with when I lived in Lancaster, England. And we were just walking through the city one evening, and this guy had let his dog off the leash and it came running toward us. And the closer it got, we saw that it looked a little bit, I don't know, like it could be vicious. It didn't have that friendly face on it. And we ran. We just started running, and it ran after us. And we still to this day don't know if it would have been a kind of dangerous scenario or whatnot, but we managed to duck into a building and we were fine after that. But that was scary. Yeah. Okay, great. Back to the comments here. Are corgis popular in the UK? Asks DJK. Because of the Queen. And it's a good question. Off the top of my head, I don't know how popular they would be. They could be, though. They might be. I think when I think of corgis, though, I do automatically think of the Queen. I don't really think of them being, in widespread circulation or population in the UK. But that doesn't mean it's not the case. I just haven't looked up the facts and figures on that. Great. Okay. Irish wolfhounds are pretty cool, says Neil. They sound it. They certainly. I wonder if they speak with an accent. Same with German shepherds and Yorkshire terriers. Wouldn't it be funny if we could assign accents to all of these dogs? Be weird. Honestly, though, now that I've said that, those ads when animals talk, right? They talk. They're the sort of adults in the room, and the human adults are being all kind of silly in these ads. I've never liked that. If you want to make animals cute and cutesy, just show the animals as they are. Don't personify them with voices. Oh, what's that all about? French poodle, says Angerland. Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like there are so many. Russian blue cat, that's what we have here. So he doesn't have a Russian accent. I'm not sure how I'd feel about that if he suddenly started speaking in Russian. It would be both. I'd be transfixed because I love a good Russian accent, but coming out of a cat, it could be a bit strange. Yep, German shepherds are sometimes called Alsatians, says Jeff. And yeah, I mean, it's like for a while there, I got the two confused until I realized the same thing. Elisa says, does your apartment have a size limit on dogs? It's a good question. I don't think it does. We did get in touch with our landlord, really just to see if we could get another pet, and there was no point at that moment. There was no moment at that point. I don't know what I'm saying. It's Friday, where they sort of intimated that it would be a bad thing if they were a certain size, and certainly in the lease it doesn't indicate that. So I think we're okay, so long as it's not, an elephant, because I mean you really don't want those in your house anyway. But it wouldn't go unnoticed, especially by our neighbors below. Okay, Elisa, if Kafka spoke Russian, would he be a spy? He's already a spy. Yeah, he keeps an eye out for the mice anyway. Yeah. Has anyone, this is a great question, this is from Jeff, has anybody been to a dog show? I haven't. I've seen them on TV. I don't know what it's all about. It seems like a lot of work, to train your dog to those levels. I myself, I'm just good throwing a ball and having them run back to me. Although I've had good practice with that too, because my cat plays fetch. He's like a dog. In fact, he is great practice for it, or just in general. He begs for food and things like that. He waits by the front door, for us to open it, and he tries to escape with us. It's all very silly. Okay, next question that came in earlier in the week. This is from Miss Arena, who says, did you have a dog when you were growing up? Tell us about he or she. I did, yes. And as I said a moment ago, his name was Benji, and he was a little Jack Russell, probably about this big. And he was fantastic. I mean, he lived a good, 15 years. Not bad for a dog, right? And he was very, very, very playful. Somewhere out there's a picture of me with him. I think maybe I can find it on the old Instagram. It's a picture of me from when I'm sort of 7 years old, and he's like any dog. He used to beg for food and do all of and go running through the fields and all that. He was a great dog, and I miss him dearly. I know I posted a picture a while back, but you know what it's like on Instagram, scrolling through your photos to find it could take an hour, and I don't want to keep you while I do that. But maybe if I just keep talking while I scroll, I'll find it, as I just did. Here it is. So there's the link. Let me post it to here. For those of you that are on Instagram, I'm not sure if you need to sign in order to see that or not, but there it is. Okay, great. Back to the questions that came in. Linda says, what's your experience with cats and dogs coexisting? And I've got a little bit of experience with that, because the in-laws, who, as well as having dogs, also did have cats, and the cats very much kept themselves to themselves, and the dogs are just the same. But I've seen these occasions, of course, where they intermingle, and sometimes cats will sleep on top of the dogs, or they'll get into fights and the cat will win because they're cats. But my experience of them has mostly been good. In fact, when I lived with my in-laws, that's really when I got into cats. Not the musical. I'll never get into that. I like musicals, but that one doesn't do it for me. But the cats that we lived with, they just sort of, again, they gravitated toward me, specifically one of them. And, it was this sort of, when I realized how much like me they are, I thought, oh, I'm a cat person now, as well as a dog person. And that was it. But yeah, sometimes you'd see the scuffles happen, and then the cats would just dart into the next room. I can't imagine what it's like, because we brought a new kitten that was adopted, not us, but my sister-in-law. But it came to the house that we were all mutually living in for a time. And one of its first experiences in the world was seeing this big chocolate Labrador. and it was barking at the cat too, the little kitten. It must have been the most terrifying experience ever. I can't think of anything worse for that poor cat. Um, there we go. I like that poll, Kathy. What type of dog should Lawrence get? And I'll run that poll now. Um, and although I've got to think of some breeds now, haven't I? I mean, a lot of it comes down to what we find, but in an ideal world, what would we like Lawrence to get? So I don't know. Throw some at me. We've said German Shepherd. I think that might be a bit big, but you know what? We'll keep this very general. I'll say a big dog, small dog, because I'm not ruling a big dog out, but I would be interested to know what you all think about this. I just said you all. That's something we don't really say in Britain, but I hear it quite a lot in the Midwest. I don't know about other places in the US. Obviously there's y'all in the South and yous and all of that in Pennsylvania, but you all, I hear that a lot, and I didn't in Britain. So I'd be interested to see what you all think, what yous think, what y'all think. So what type of dog should Lawrence get? Big dog, small dog? Very, very simplistic way of describing these things. Sarah says a pug. Absolutely, that would be great. Put a feline in as a suggestion. Exactly. These aren't. It's not definite that we're getting a dog, but it's possible and probable at this point. Okay, and while that poll is running in the background, I am going to go to the next question. So we've got this came in from David, who asks, "Would you travel to Minnesota to pick up a rescue dog?" Not that I know of any available dogs, but it was more of a Minnesota question than a dog question. Anyway, see what you did there. It's a nice sly way of getting in another question that's related more to the kind of topics that I talk about. I would travel to any state to pick up a dog and look after it, Minnesota included. But that said, I would love to visit Minnesota in general as well. Tammy, do you want a dog or are you happy with just a cat? And this plays in, of course, to the conversations we've been having, rather. And I would very much like to have a second pet. And it's likely to be a dog or a cat, but you never know. I have a friend who has two birds, and I love that, the way they just rest on your finger. That's good. Sometimes they bite it, and that can be overwhelming, depending on who you are. This is a great question. And this ties into some of the kind of topics that we deal with on this channel. This is from Neil. What's the deal with dog-related idioms? My dogs are barking, raining cats and dogs. The country is going to the dogs. The dog days of summer, sick as a dog, in the doghouse. Why are there so many? It's because dogs are great, but at the same time, we kind of undermine them with our language, don't we? I mean, we sort of, we use them in a pejorative sense to describe humans and humanity and the folly of humanity. Like, a dirty dog or, many others. And I don't know why that is. I think that I would use it in a positive sense. I would use dogs in a positive sense, as in, I'm as happy as a dog today. I'm as happy as Larry because I am him, but I'm as happy as a dog. I don't have a tail. So the only way to show that is through smiling. And I don't do that very often because I was born that way. All right, back to the live stream. It's good. We're flicking between comments because they're coming in live and in the past. And Angerland, my friend had a green parrot who was devoted to him for over 30 years. Wow. Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Certain animals have different longevities. Is that the plural of longevity? Lifespans. And that can often factor in, I suppose. My mum, when she was a kid, had a tortoise, which may still be alive. I don't know. She thinks it was born in the 1800s, though, so it could still be alive, even given that. But even so, in the 1960s, when she was a kid, She had a tortoise that was born in the 1800s. That's wild, isn't it? Okay. Angolan says, you've let the cat out of the bag with all those expressions. There we go. I must be the cat meow and all of the others that incorporate cats as well. Yeah, cats and dogs. I mean, it's raining cats and dogs if you want to combine them. There we go. So I love that question. And the next one, see, we've got a few more here. This is from Sarah, who says, if you were to adopt a dog, would it be a puppy, adult, or senior doggo? That's a great question. And she says, I got my Pitty Girl from the Multnomah County Animal Shelter, and I love her so much. That's great. I think we're not particularly picky about the age, because I think, as we said last week, dogs of all ages, need looking after. They need that claimant to come forward. I suspect it's probably more true of older dogs and cats. So we'd very much consider it. At the same time, there is a sort of bias, I think, in my head toward, giving myself greater odds of living with that animal longer. But who knows? I think we're quite open-minded, I think, when it comes to the age of it, to most extent. Donna, this is a great question. Would you be willing to invest the time to train a dog? I would, yeah. I think a moment ago when I said that, I didn't think I could handle the responsibility of living with cats, which is a laughable sentence now, but back then it felt like it had meaning. I found over the years that even though they don't take much looking after, the time that I invest to play with them, or him in this case now, and make them healthy or keep them healthy and keep them active and all of that, it brings me nothing but joy to do that. I just laugh my head off watching my cat try to attack a fake bird. It never gets old. You'd think it would, but it's the same for me every day living with him. I feel the same way looking at him and interacting with him as I did when he walked in that door as a puppy 12 years ago. And it would be the same with a dog, I think. Back to the comments, back to the live comments. I probably need some kind of terminology to distinguish between the two. We've got the live comments, and then we've got the not live comments, the comments that came in throughout the week. You may notice, by the way, that I have sort of slightly rebranded these live streams. I want to shorten the phrase a bit, so I'm referring to them now as secret streams. It just sounds like I'm more down with the kids, when I do that, and it's good alliteration. That's the real reason. So okay, where were we? Uncle Toby has a good point. To Kafka, you're catnip. Exactly. It's just I'm constantly that plaything, unless he's sleeping, at which point he's probably dreaming about killing birds, but also about playing with daddy, I hope. I mean, that's just it's wishful thinking. But I try to imagine what my cat is thinking. But often when we do this, of course, we put our own human sensibilities into their brains, and it's probably wrong most of the time. That's just the way it goes. Next question. I like this one. This is from DS Watson, who asks, who is your favorite dog celebrity? And I've had so many over the years. My first one was probably Toto from Wizard of Oz. I think that goes without saying. Although, how do we define celebrity, I suppose? The actor that played Toto in Wizard of Oz. One of the first VHSs, though, I had as a little kid, was the Benji films from the 70s. Has anyone ever seen those, where he is just the star of the film? And for a kid, those films are amazing. Oh, and of course, Homeward Bound, or as it was originally called, The Incredible Journey. Loved that film as a kid. The early 60s version, but my wife tells me there's a version with Michael J. Fox and Sally Field from the early 90s, and I've not seen that one, but that one, I love those animals in it, and it was one of my favorite films when I was a really small child. Einstein from Back to the Future, doesn't do much, unlike these other animals, but he does sit in the DeLorean at the beginning and goes back in time by a minute, or forward in time. So those are some of my favorites, I'd say. Kathy says, and realize, Lawrence, that a dog will probably want more attention than Kafka. I realize that fully. My concern is Kafka is in for a rude awakening, I think, because he's, this is his domain. And when I say this, I mean the entire apartment. He's taken just about every spot you can imagine. So that's going to take some time, I think, to get him used to the situation. If and when it happens, must stress that it isn't something that's happened yet. Will Blake 72 says, my favorite dog celebrities, if you can call them that, are the dogs who retrieve bats at baseball games. Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about that. That's really cool. And it's true. Elise is correct. Kafka would also be in for a rude awakening with another cat, almost more so to some extent. He's not good with other cats. There was one time we did have one in the apartment, and there was a standoff for about 3 days, it felt like. Okay, we still have more comments that came in. We've got a few more here. And Just Me asks, if you are looking for a dog, or rather states, if you're looking for a dog, I highly recommend a prison puppies for parole program. Inmates do the training before adoption. That's good to know. Yeah, there's lots of different approaches to this that, we're willing to consider and be open-minded over. So that's one more to add to the list. And Jeff has a similar question. Who are the greatest fictional dogs in movies, TV, literature, and comics? I could probably mention about 1,200 more, just from my growing up. There's Old Yeller. There's that one. What is it with Owen Wilson in it? The sad one, Marley and Me. Yeah, just so many. Who Let the Dogs Out? Probably my favorite dog-oriented song, because I can't think of many others. That's the only reason, because otherwise I'm not a big fan. Dogs. What's a good dog song? Hi, dog. What's a dog song? Do we know any dog songs? I don't know any others. There's got to be plenty, but I just can't. How much is that doggy in the window? I read once that was Margaret Thatcher's favorite song of all time, which is weird, but apparently it was. That could be false information, but it's there. All right. Yeah, Who Let the Dogs Out? I can't. How much is that dog? There you go. Well, yeah. The dog car from Dumb and Dumber, probably the best dog-themed vehicle. Probably, maybe. The best person to dress up as a dog, John Candy in Spaceballs, maybe, or Chewbacca, probably Chewbacca. Okay, sorry if I put Who Let the Dogs Out in everybody's head. It wasn't intentional, but it's certainly happening to me right now. Okay, great. This is a conversation that is better than I even imagined it to be. And that's saying something. So next comment that came in, this is from Elisa. What dog breeds are most popular in the UK? Again, it's sort of hard for me to remember back without doing the research. I'd be happy to do that. Have you noticed any differences between how UK dog owners treat their dogs versus UK dog owners? I don't know if I have or not. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think there are some differences. I did do a video a while back. This was a video about, it was basically pet ownership differences in general. So it encompassed quite a few things, and it delved into numbers and things like that. But in terms of sort of the way we look after dogs, I'm not sure of too many differences. I think both countries, it's pretty well understood that you pick up after your dog's toilet breaks and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like this would be worthy of a deeper dive, of more research to see if this is a video in the making. It could well be. Okay, great. And so now that is the questions. Those are the pre-stream questions that came in. So now we go back to the live questions. And oh, there we go. This is from Bob. Doug in the movie Up. Now I'm going to have that music in my head, which is a darn sight better than Who Let the Dogs Out. And Neil says, I took care of a dog in England and the owner said he was molting. I would say shedding. There we go. There is terminology. There's a lot of terminology difference when it comes to pets. Speaking of pet, the verb to pet, a dog is not really something we say in the UK. It would be, we say to stroke the dog like this. And yeah, I think there are some others as well I'd have to look into. But yeah, that's a good point, though. I'd not thought of that one. This is a good. This is from Elisa, from a different Elisa, but Elisa says and asks, "Does the UK have dog parks too?" I would imagine so. I can't really remember off the top of my head because I think that you know, in my memory, all I'm picturing is people walking their dogs just in regular parks or on the street. But I've noticed dog parks become an increasing part of life here in the US. I mean, there's a few of them in and around Chicago that I've noticed. But I would imagine that they have them in the UK. But again, that's something I'd have to look into. Great. It looks like there were some other songs as well relating to dogs. This is good. Perhaps we could put together a dog-themed playlist at some point. Woof, woof, goes the dog. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing there. Just speaking to myself in dog terminology. Ren and Stimpy. Yeah, that's right. And lots of cartoons, surely, that aren't immediately coming to me. What was my favorite dog card? Oh, I know what it was. I think this. Well, no. Do you know what it was? It was Dog Tanyan. There was a cartoon in the UK that's based on the Three Musketeers, but the central character was played by a dog, and he was called Dog Tanyan. And I loved that as a kid. Also, 80 Days Around the World with Willy Fogg was a cartoon by, I think, probably the same people. And I think there was a dog in it. Yeah, it wasn't Willy Fogg. I'm saying this as if you've seen it. It was very much a British show, I think. Maybe it was partly American. I don't know. But there were dogs in it. I'm pretty certain. Yeah. Great. Did I bark? I did bark. I said woof, and Elisa may have imitated a befuddled dog when I barked. Uh-oh. I've started a thing now. Instead of the dogs in the ads being personified, I, the human, am being dogified. That can't be a word, but I'll use it anyway for the purposes of these live streams. I do hope that most of the sound bites in this live stream stay in this live stream. It would be a terrible miscarriage of justice if they made their way across social media and I was taken out of context saying woof woof in high pitch, in a high register that all of the dogs around me can hear. I'm looking out the window. There is a window here, and I usually use it for the natural daylight, but it's a little bit gloomy today. So I've got this ring light here. See the rings in my eyes, and so that's happening. By the way, you paid for that, and you paid for this, and all of this stuff behind me there. Not that. That was YouTube just gave me that because I got to 100,000, but that was partly due to you as well. So big thank you and a round of applause. You know, it's weird when you clap and do a round of applause, but you're the only one you can hear clapping. But yeah. Oh, I just remembered I had a poll going, didn't I? Could have gotten away from me that. We'll end that poll now, shall we? Let's see. It's going to come in a moment and I'll see the results. Hopefully you haven't put me where I don't want to be in terms of big and small dogs. Come on, where is it? Where was it? Here we go. 68% small dogs. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted, because big dogs, I mean, there'd be a handful, and I love that. But we do have neighbors down below, and I can just see them running and being really loud and heavy. Great. Okay. Excuse me. More water required. No, I was going to say Master Splinter from the Turtles, but he was a rat, a giant rat at that. But he was, a rat. So that's like, wow, 29 votes, says Neil. And that's probably a poll record, I think, for these live streams, which is great. It's nice to know that Friday is a good day still for people to meet. Ankle biters are a handful too, says Jameis. Yeah, those ones that get down and dig in, as it were. Will Blake 72 says big dogs can be pretty easy, but you have to have the right one. Vice versa for the small ones too. Just take your time and find one you click with. I think that's the idea, isn't it? It's all about, do we all work in sync with each other's brains and sensibilities? Not that I can take Kafka with us, to see the dog, so it'll just be a surprise. Knowing him, Kafka, that is, he will hide under the bed, probably for a couple of days. Actually, he did that when we moved in with our in-laws the second time, briefly for a month or two. And he wasn't with us the first time we lived there. So this was a completely new experience. There were 3 dogs in the house, 2 cats, and he was petrified. And he just hid under our bed for 2 days, and we couldn't get him to come out. We'd slide food under for him, and he'd occasionally go out to go to the bathroom. Okay, and that's a good question from Bob. What is your cutoff for small versus big? I don't know. That is a good question, because I guess there's a medium size, right? But I do think of sort of this size, maybe ish, like lengthways, and that tall would be okay for a small dog, right? But big, I mean, like I said, you get those really humongous ones in the US, massive ones. I actually acted on stage in a Shakespeare in the Park production about 11 years ago in Indianapolis with this massive dog. Great actor, knew all of his lines, didn't have many, to be fair, but he was reliable. If he had to be on the stage at a certain time, he was there. He was pushed by his trainer, but sometimes you need that helping hand, and he was so massive. I felt like I was being shrunk. I was being eaten up on the stage, and all of the attention was going to. That's the thing. If you're acting on stage with a dog, no one's looking at you. They're all looking at the dog, and I got lumped with that, which was fine backstage. It was the most adorable thing ever. But actors want to be the center of attention, and he stole it from me. Anything under 100 pounds is a small dog, says Jameis. Anything under 50 for me. But yeah, I see what you're saying there. Of course, cartoon dogs, Snoopy, Scooby-Doo, and all the others from Jeff, Muttley, Oggy Doggy, and Doggy Daddy. I know the first 2. I do know the first 2. No, Danger Mouse was a mouse. Why am I getting dogs confused with rodents today? Just, of course, there's Goofy, right? He's not a rodent. I read somebody was trying to make the case the other day that Goofy is a cow. Firstly, cows are female, all of them. And secondly, he's not a cow, he's a dog, because Disney said so. Okay, that's that one off my chest. Some of the things you have to clarify in life. Brian from Family Guy. Good one. That's from Jameis. Yeah, cartoon dogs are easy, aren't they? I suppose it's just it makes sense to make those. Apparently, the Goofy as a cow legend has been around for decades. What? How can that even be? He doesn't even look like a bull, if that's what they're referring to. He only looks like a dog. I can't see anything else. And that's a good question from Jeff. And I was thinking about this recently. How can Pluto and Goofy both be dogs? It's like, well, but then again, Mickey and Minnie Mouse are both mice, so it sort of evens the playing field in a way. And you've got Donald and Daffy Duck. Are they in the same universe? They are in Roger Rabbit, but that's when all of the characters came together, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, this has been great so far. Do we have any other dog related questions? Or, we could use the remaining 9 minutes of this first Friday live stream for any other questions. I've been hard at work today working on the next video, and I'm hoping for that to come out either today or tomorrow. And it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, this other video. It's nothing to do with dogs, I should state that. But it will be out soon, so you'll be able to see that. Never heard of Goofy being a cow, says Dieti. I hadn't either until the other day, and it blew my mind that people buy into that. That's a good question from Elisa J. Do you want to travel with your dog? And we've talked about this, me and Tara, because Kafka, is a cat, so he doesn't travel with us when we travel. But we have spoken about the fact that dogs can travel, and pretty well. And would this be the case on things like road trips? And I think there's a possibility that it could be. It depends on the road trip for us, certainly if it's something where we might maybe go camping or something like that, then that could happen, especially if it's quite local. And maybe for those first few times, it would be somewhere that's quite nearby, just so we can get used to the idea. But I hear about people taking dogs on road trips across the country and things like that. So I don't know. I'd have to, play it by ear, my dog's ear mostly. Apparently, says Dieti, coyotes don't count as dogs. Oh, they do, surely. I mean, I wouldn't want to, cohabit a place with one, but yeah. Donna says, does anyone want to suggest what Lawrence should get in order to be ready for a dog? Feel free, throw it at me like a bone. Yeah. Jameis has a good point, though, relating to Mr. Goofy, if he has a title. Maybe it's Doctor. Unlikely. I've seen his films. Early animation can be confusing when it comes to animals. Yeah, I think so. Because, well, some of it wasn't in color to start with, so that can often make it a little harder. But I still can't see how Goofy can be confused with a cow. It doesn't make any sense. All right, well, that brings me hope. Jeff says, when I was a kid, we take the family dog on road trips. There we go. And my in-laws did the same thing. And they take, dogs out west, head out west and go camping and things. Aha. Okay, so Cold in August suggests a crate so that Kafka can be 100% safe at night at first. And the dog. We should state that. Like, Kafka's not to be messed with, as my niece found to her chagrin recently. So, okay, she was fine, but she was so adamant she wanted to say hi to the cat, and he wasn't having it. He just wasn't having it on this day. He's usually great with strangers. He is, actually, but with some, he's not so good, especially ones that live with cats. And my niece went through to, she's only 4. She went through to, say hi and pet him. And he just hissed really loudly in her face. And she ran off screaming like this. And then she just kept going back. And he didn't really warm to her at any point. Look at that. Betty Boop was originally a dog. We've got two accounts of that. I didn't know that. I did know that she's been voiced by several people over the years, but I didn't know that. Interesting. And Uncle Toby says you can put a camera on a dog. You could, yeah. It's funny because as part of this channel, actually, and this again, this is thanks to you. I am thinking of investing at some point in a GoPro, which I think could be useful for certain point of view shots and whatnot. But I think the most fun I'd have with that is attaching it to my cat or dog, and just sort of seeing the world from their point of view. Yeah, so maybe for the future, maybe that could make a good video for Kafka's channel or for others. I really need to get back to Kafka's channel, by the way, my cat, because it's been 9 months since I posted anything, and that's it. Just my channel took precedent there for a while, but we'll see what happens. Great. So yeah, plenty of dog toys. We will need those because the cat toys that we have right now, I suspect dogs would probably eat those and chew them and swallow them. But yes, to more Kafka videos. I think maybe once the other animal arrives, it makes sense for us to do it. It's just finding the time. Maybe that's the sort of thing I could do for fun on weekends because it doesn't feel like work as such. It feels like fun because I'm taking myself out of the equation when I do that. And the pressure's off. I don't have to think about how do I, perform this bit? How do I research this bit? No, I just film my cat being cute. And so maybe that's something I might look into doing because it is so much fun. Thanks, Will, and I'll hopefully see you next time. And thanks for joining your first live stream. We have 3 minutes left ourselves, so let's see. Do we want to do another poll? We've said small dogs. Do small dogs or cats? Well, here's the question, isn't it? Really, should Lawrence get a dog or a cat? Well, that's not the poll. That's just a regular question. Let's set up a poll. I think we know the answer, but I'd be interested to see whether we've got any contrarians in the house based on the fact that this entire live stream has been about dogs. Okay, coming. We have 3 minutes just to get your thoughts on that. And while we're waiting on those results to come in, cold in August. Basset hounds are bigger, but too lazy to need walks. Ooh, well, that could be good because I'm lazy too. But I do like walks, though. That's the thing. And honestly, when I took my neighbor's dog for a walk not too long ago, the experience was a very joyful one. I very much enjoyed it. And I think that that's something that will become my new habit so long as a dog is something that enters our life. All right, well, those results are coming in, so I will hang tight on those. I'm just so encouraged by the turnout for this live stream today, and hopefully that can continue to be the case here on Friday afternoons. And I will, keep. I'll keep every week putting out those feeler questions, or I should say, the ability for you to ask your questions in advance. I think that's a great way for people that can't make this live stream at the time to get involved, and also just to give us a kind of a chance for me to think about my responses in advance as well, which is really great. So we have about 1 minute remaining, so I'm going to close the poll, and it's just as I imagined. So let's end the poll. The results will come up in a moment. Interesting, though, that some of you were interested in the notion of me getting a second cat. I think that, despite Kafka's hesitance, it would be possibly more beneficial to him in the long run, in that he's more likely to form a playful partnership with another cat. But 68% of you say a dog, and, that doesn't surprise me, I don't think. John says, goodbye all, and thanks, Lawrence. Till next time. Bye, John. Thank you again. And thank you to all of you for joining me this Friday. I think it's going to be good. I'm really, really excited for the end of the week kind of party atmosphere, because as you can see in here, it's crazy. People are just, what are you doing? Get down from there. There's nobody else here. It is just me, but it is a party, and I believe that, so that's good. The poll results might be off. They could be off. Are they off? Did I not do it? I did do it. They're there. Okay, good. That made me scared. And okay, great. Well, that's the hour, and this has been very enjoyable. I'm going to get back to another hour of just working on the next video, and I will see you all next week, next Friday. So take care, everyone, and have a great weekend. Have a great week. I get to say that at the end of my live streams. Have a fabulous weekend. All right, bye now.